Welcome to the podcast, the space where we journey beyond the literal to uncover the profound metaphysical truths hidden in ancient stories. Welcome to a journey beyond time, beyond scripture, and into the depths of metaphysical truth. Today we are unraveling a great mystery encoded within ancient texts, the evolution of the sons of God, the Nephilim, and the warriors of renown. What does their story mean in the grand scheme of human spiritual evolution? How does it reveal the divine descent into flesh, and what does it tell us about the struggle between higher intelligence and material limitation? What we are discussing today is not just ancient history, it is the story of consciousness itself, the story of how divine intelligence became enmeshed in the material world, how it sought to master it, and how forces of fear and limitation embodied by the Emim rose to keep it trapped. Today, we will connect many names, definitions, and scripture verses to paint a complete picture of how these forces interact in our own spiritual evolution. This is the great descent and the great ascent, the mystery of being. Let's begin. The sons of God, the divine descent into flesh. To understand the spiritual journey of humanity, we must begin with the sons of God. These weren't ordinary beings. They were not confined to the limits of the physical. They were beings of expansive consciousness, not yet bound to matter, not yet identifying with physical bodies. They were luminous, infinite, pure awareness. In Genesis 6, verses 1 and 2, when people began to multiply on the face of the ground, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that they were fair, and they took wives for themselves of all which they chose. This verse marks a critical turning point. The sons of God, who once existed beyond time and space, became aware of the physical world. They saw the daughters of men, and in seeing them, they became entangled in materiality. This was not just a physical act. It was a spiritual contraction, a pulling down of cosmic intelligence into the finite form of human incarnation. The nature of the descent. At first, they were unaware they even had physical forms. They existed in an expanded state of being where physicality was an extension of their consciousness, not their limitation. But as they descended further, they began to contract, becoming smaller and smaller in the energetic sense, more confined, more bound to material laws. The final stage of their descent was being born through the womb, passing through the gateway of incarnation into the flesh, where intelligence would now be shaped by material experience. What does this mean for us? It means that spiritual evolution is not about escaping the body. It is about fully integrating divine intelligence into the body. The greater the descent, the greater the potential for mastery over the material world. But this mastery could not come easily, for as soon as the sons of God became flesh, they encountered forces that would seek to keep them bound. The Nephilim, in the presence of giants before and after the fall. Genesis 6:4 gives us another critical piece of the puzzle. The Nephilim were already on the earth in those days, and also afterwards. This tells us something profound. The Nephilim were not the offsprings of the sons of God. They were already here. They were an earlier manifestation of consciousness in the physical realm, but they were incomplete. They represent the early attempts of spirit to take form, a primordial consciousness, massive in energy but lacking the refinement of divine intelligence. Genesis 6:4 also states, When the sons of God went into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them, they were the heroes of old, warriors of renown. The Nephilim represent an early form of materialized spiritual consciousness, existing on the physical plane before the sons of God fully integrated into the material world. They are giants in the energetic sense, massive in power but lacking the complete integration of divine wisdom. They were not yet evolved enough to be fully conscious within the physical realm. They existed in a state between spiritual and physical, a primitive form of awakened intelligence. Then something happened. When the sons of God fully descended into the material form, something new was created. The mighty men of renown, the great kings, the rulers, the sages. They were the first to fully integrate divine intelligence into human form. They were the true bridge between the infinite and the finite, the Emim. The Emim are the forces that seek to rule the material world. They are the forces that sought and still do seek to keep divine intelligence asleep. Forces that ruled through fear, through illusion, through the enforcement of material limitation. These were the Emim, the ruling class of the physical world. In Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 10 and 11, we see that the Emim had lived there previously, a people great and numerous, as tall as the Anakim. They were also regarded as the Rephaim, like the Anakim, but the Moabites called them Emim. The Emim symbolized the ruling structures of fear and limitation, the forces that keep divine consciousness trapped in material illusion. They are Rephaim, meaning they are the ancient controllers of perception, ensuring that the physical world remains dominant over the spiritual. They are giants, not in divine power, but in control, ensuring that awakening is suppressed. And this brings us to the great battle, the battle between the sons of God who seek to awaken within the material world and the Emim who seek to keep them asleep. The spiritual evolution of the sons of God, from David to Abishai. If we look at the biblical stories of David, of Abishai, of the battles against the Philistines, we see this war playing out metaphysically. The war is not about nations, it's about consciousness. David represents divine rulership through the heart, while Ishbi-Benob represents the material ego that seeks to destroy divine awareness. And Abishai, the warrior who rescues David, is the very force of divine intervention. David, the beloved, divine love integrated into the body. Abishai, Father gives, the power that rescues the divine from destruction. Ishbi-Benob, the ego-driven material forces that seek to eliminate higher consciousness. So where does this leave us? It leaves us with the knowledge that the sons of God are not gone. They are still here. We are them. The only question is, will we awaken? Or will we remain asleep under the illusions of the Emim? The great ascent begins. The great descent into the flesh was only the first half of the journey. The second half is the ascent, the return to full consciousness. This is the destiny of the sons of God. This is the battle we are in today. And this is the journey that is now unfolding before us all. The sons of God are rising once again. The war is for consciousness. The war for consciousness is here. What side do you choose? Before we conclude, I would like to share a metaphysical sermon with you, one that encompasses what we just discussed. We shall unveil the psychological aspects of spiritual development, tracing the path of our transformation from the primitive forces of the natural world to the radiant realization of our divine selfhood. This metaphysical sermon is about the sacred journey of the sons of God, the rulers who are with God, those who must learn to prevail, to govern, and to manifest the eternal kingdom within. Let's begin. The struggle for dominion, the evolution of the self. From the ancient writings, we learn that Israel means one who contends with God and prevails. Before Jacob was transformed into Israel, he wrestled through the night, wrestled with an angel, with man, with God, and ultimately with himself. He sought a blessing, and in doing so, his very nature was changed. This is the path of every son of God, for we all must wrestle with the lower forces within us, the giants of doubt, of fear, and ignorance. The giants, the Anakim, representing intellectual thoughts that mistakenly believe the outer world and its customs hold true power rather than recognizing that all external manifestations stem from inner consciousness. The Emim, symbolizing deep-seated fears, terrors, and the illusions of evil that form when man believes in the power of external conditions rather than the omnipotence of divine good. And the Philistines, embodying the transient, wandering thoughts of the five-sense mind, which rejects spiritual discipline and clings to material desires, suppressing the true self. These represent the obstacles of the lower mind. They are the lingering remnants of past forms of existence, our Nephilim ancestors, the primitive forces of the human race. These ancient energies are still within us. The instincts, the wandering thoughts, the Philistine consciousness that drifts away from spiritual truth. But just as Israel, the striving spiritual consciousness, the higher self that prevails with God, was called to war against these enemies, so too must we subdue the chaotic forces of the lower self and establish dominion over our own consciousness. From the natural man to the spiritualized man. In the early stages, man is but a thinking beast, a creature responding to the world through sensations and desire. The sons of God descended into the daughters of men, meaning that divine consciousness became enmeshed with the material world. The mind drawn to the beauty of the senses became lost in illusions and the false identification with form. This is the stage of Ish-Bibi-Nab, the false dwelling place of the self, where personality exalts itself above the divine man. It is the exile of spirit into the realm of flesh. But from among the people, God calls forth his chosen. He calls forth David, the beloved, the divine love within man, to rise and take dominion. Saul, the ego-driven will, may rule for a time, but it is David, the heart, that is anointed by spirit. And just as David was shepherd to his flock before he was king, so too must we learn to guide the scattered elements of our consciousness before we can sit upon the throne of spiritual authority. The rise of the mighty men, overcoming fear and illusion. The battles of the Israelites against the Philistines, the encounters with giants, the struggles against fear itself. All of these are allegories for our own inner battles. The Emim, the terrible ones, are the fears we create when we believe in a power separate from God. They are the products of false belief, of trusting in the material rather than the eternal. Yet fear is an illusion, a shadow that disappears in the presence of light. When David stood before Goliath, he did not see the giant as an immovable force. He only saw the power of God within himself. He understood that faith is a stone that fells the strongest adversary. And so must we, the sons of God, cast our stones of divine realization at the giants of doubt, knowing that the battle is not ours but the Lord's. Abishai, the warrior, reminds us that there is also an inherited power of destruction, not destruction for harm, but destruction of all that opposes the divine within. When David grew weary in battle, Abishai arose and slew the enemy. This is the strength of spiritual discipline, the ability to cut down the falsehoods that threaten our higher consciousness. We do not fight with physical weapons, but with swords of truth, which divides illusion from reality, the Lord's day, illumination, and the final stage of evolution. In the book of Revelation, John declares, "I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day." But what is this day? This is not a mere date in time, but a state of mind, a moment when the lower self is surrendered and the divine illumination floods the soul. It is the day when the veil is lifted and the sons of God remember who they are. This is the fulfillment of spiritual evolution. Just as man first emerged from the Nephilim state, clumsy and unaware, just as he wrestled through the night of ignorance like Jacob, and just as he took up the throne of David and subdued the giants of his consciousness, so too must we now rise to this final stage of awakening. And it is written, "For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God." Romans 8:19. The entire cosmos is waiting for us to step into our divinity and to reclaim the power we once forgot, to ascend beyond the limitations of flesh and shine as lights in the world. Awaken, sons of God, warriors of the Spirit, rulers with God, awaken. The night is far spent and the day is at hand. You are not mere men struggling against the winds of fate. You are the divine seeds, the radiant ones, the Israel of God, destined to prevail. Do not fear the giants in your path. Do not waver in the battles of your soul. Love must take the throne, and fear must be cast down. The spiritual kingdom is within you, awaiting for you to take dominion. The giants are but shadows, the Philistines but illusions, and all power is given unto you to tread upon all forces and to rise into your divine inheritance. Let the spirit of David rule within you. Let Abishai slay your enemies of doubt. Let the fearlessness of Israel guide you to the promised land. The time of awakening is now, and the final resurrection is not in some distant future, but in this very moment of realization. Thank you, not just for listening, but for being a part of this awakening. You are not here by accident. You are the manifestation of divine remembrance. You are the sons of God, awakening in the flesh. Every moment you step into your divine knowledge, you reclaim the throne in the kingdom of consciousness. Every time you seek wisdom over deception, love over fear, spiritual mastery over material enslavement, you embody the victory of the divine over the fallen. So as we part ways today, remember this truth. You are the light that darkness cannot comprehend. You are the warriors of renown, the builders of sacred destiny, the return of the divine order. Go forth in power, wisdom, and clarity. The world is watching, the heavens are calling, and the spirit within is ready to rise. Until next time, stay luminous, stay powerful, and remember who you truly are. Peace. It's ancient.